Congress gets back to work this week on tackling the president's ambitious agenda for 2018. South Dakota Senator John Thune joins us with a preview of the work ahead. Good evening, Senator. Happy New Year.
Good evening, Mike. Happy New Year to you.
Well, as you know, the government runs out of money late night on January 19th. Are you expecting a funding deal to last through the end of the fiscal year, the end of September, or another short-term extension, sir?
I certainly hope it's through the end of the fiscal year. We need to get the funding issue solved. One of the issues that's of real concern to a lot of our members, Mike, is making sure that we are adequately funding the military. We've got a lot of national security requirements that need to be met, and we haven't been keeping up with that. And so that's going to be a big priority. I hope that big deal happens by the 19th to fund the government through the end of the fiscal year, and then we can move on to some of the other big issues that are also on our agenda and on the president's agenda.
Another big issue on that agenda, of course, is DACA, those children who are brought to this country illegally by their parents. What's your expectation on that front, sir?
Well, that's an issue that, as you know, has to be addressed. I think we have a March deadline associated with that. I'm hoping that we can move a freestanding bill. But when you address the DACA issue, you have to address the broader issue of illegal immigration. And I'm hopeful that we can find a bipartisan path forward that enables us to deal with DACA and come up with a solution for that, but at the same time ensure that we are addressing the underlying problem, and that is that we continue to have a lot of people come into this country illegally, and there are ways in which we can prevent that from happening, slow that in-migration that we have in this country, and I'm hoping that this opportunity will enable us finally to address an issue that's really long overdue. This is something that, as we know, needs to get done and hasn't gotten done for a long time.
Is infrastructure an area where there could be some bipartisanship this year, Senator?
I think it is. Historically, at least, infrastructure has represented an opportunity for the parties to come together. I'm certainly in favor of doing things to modernize our infrastructure, whether that's roads or bridges or broadband. There are lots of infrastructure needs that we have in this country, and I'm hoping that there'll be Democrats who are willing to come to the table. The question, I guess, is as you head into 2018, which is another even-numbered year, another election year, whether the Democrats will want to work with Republicans, but we're ready to be partners with them. I believe the president and his team want to move forward with an infrastructure bill that addresses a lot of these needs that we have around the country, and I think it could be a big accomplishment for the American people, and I'm hoping at least that we'll see the willingness of the Democrats to join us in that endeavor.
National security issues do not stop over the holidays. Here's how your colleague Lindsey Graham referred to two of the hot spots in the world.
The president has drawn a line in North Korea, telling the regime, I will never let you hit America with a nuclear-tipped missile. If I have to, I'll use military force to stop you. Now, the Iranians are watching the way he engages with North Korea and vice versa. So we got a chance here to deliver some fatal blows to really bad actors in 2018. But if we blink, God help us all.
Senator, how high are the stakes right now on North Korea and Iran?
They're very high. I think that Senator Graham has assessed it quite accurately, and this could be a very critical year with respect to both of those areas of the world. And those are the hot spots. There are other places around the world. The world, as we know, is a very dangerous place, which is why it's doubly important that we invest adequately in our national security priorities, and we've got a lot of ground to make up there. But I think that as we deal with North Korea, as we deal with the issue of Iran, we need to project strength. We need to involve as much as we can the international community, and I think that's happening with respect to North Korea. But these regimes around the world that have nuclear capabilities or trying to acquire nuclear capabilities and have the wherewithal to use them in a way that would be very harmful to either the region or the world have to be dealt with. And I think, again, it's going to take a concerted effort, but I think we've made some inroads there. I think the president and his team have been very good in the way that they've gone about handling what are crisis situations in the world, but projecting American strength, letting these dictators know, these authoritarian regimes know that we're not going to sit idly by and allow them to acquire the most dangerous weapons.
Senator, your new reality in the United States Senate this year is a 51-49 split with a Democrat now representing Alabama. The Real Clear Politics average of the 2018 generic congressional vote favors Democrats by 12 12.8. How worried are you about this year's midterm election, sir?
I think you always have to go into an election year with an awareness, particularly when you have a majority and it's a midterm election in a presidential term, that the party that is in power typically loses seats. But given that, I think the best way for us to overcome what might be some of those historical trends is for us to put up a record of accomplishment. And that's why passing tax reform, meaningful tax reform that's going to bring meaningful tax relief to hardworking Americans in this country, middle-income families, I think is going to be really essential as people start to evaluate this president, this Republican majority, and their ability to get the things done in the areas that the American people care about. And fundamentally, most people in this country care deeply about the economy. They care about those pocketbook, kitchen table issues. I think tax reform strikes at the very heart of that. If we can, move forward this year, continue to lessen this regulatory burden, unleash this economy, which is already starting to pick up speed, thanks to some of the steps that the administration and the Congress have taken, I think this could be a very good year for the economy, and in a year in which the American people take an assessment of this administration and this Congress and say, you know what, these folks are getting results for the American people, and they're making a difference in my life. And I think ultimately that's what as people make their determinations next fall are going to be looking at. Am I better off than I was before these folks came to office?
Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer is already signaling major changes to tax reform if Democrats take back the majority. Take a listen to this.
There are probably a small number of provisions we might not repeal, but it certainly would need drastic overhaul, aiming it at the middle class, not at the wealthy and powerful.
Is that trying to fire up Democrat voters, sir?
It is, and they clearly have a strategy that runs try to sort of obstruct at all cost. They were not willing participants in tax reform. I hope that they are on some of these issues that we mentioned earlier. But the fact is, Mike, as we head into this election year, there is a very different philosophy. As you listen to Chuck Schumer and other Democrats talk, these are people who believe that the federal government in Washington knows better how to spend your money than you do. And the reason I think that they were not willing to participate in the effort to lessen the tax burden on people in this country is that they have that fundamental belief. We believe the best way to lift people's economic standing in this country is to get a stronger, growing economy that's creating better paying jobs and raising wages. And Democrats typically are more interested in growing government. And I think fundamentally that's where we have this division, and this is the choice that the American people are going to be faced with. Do you want people who are going to allow you to have more control, more freedom, more flexibility, more power in your daily lives, or do you want to hand that to Washington, D.C.?
Senator John Thune from the great state of South Dakota. Look forward to seeing you back here on the Hill soon, sir. Safe travels.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, Mike.